Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to say hello and welcome. Welcome to another brand new presentation of the program Ashford Garley Live on British Radio Africa. As always, on this second date of January 2023, in the name of Jesus, we want to ask God for protection. We want to ask for divine strength as we speak to your people tonight. We ask for wisdom. We ask for protection. Speak to us through your people. In the name of Jesus, Father God, we give you praise, we give you honor, we magnify your name. And so shall it be in the name of Jesus. We have prayed. Thank you. And as always, folks, some heard the name, some heard people talk about them. You've gotten the opportunity tonight. In the early stage of 2023, the medicine of the microphone, the golden voice of LIBERIA, the doctor of law, the mastermind, the broadcast commissioner, Africa's media dobido extraordinaire. Yours truly. And now you know me, Garley. Ashford Garley is in the building. Welcome. And just before we introduce our panelists tonight, I'd like to say hi to a few folks here. Sylvester Dodd is in the building. Henry, Avi, Jemima Taylor, Raymond Clark, as always. How you doing? James Finley, Albert Moore, Martina Yeno is also here tonight. And I'm pretty sure you all are having a blast. Happy New Year to all of you. Sit back, relax, so that we can together have a great time tonight. I also see Albert Jala. Right? At this time, ladies and gentlemen, let me just jump straight into it by introducing our panelists tonight. I see the Hawa bed. I also see Human Throw Crane Guard. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to say a happy new year to all of you and welcome to Ashford Garley Live on British Radio Africa. Let us begin with the ladies. Happy New Year to you all. Come on, ladies, introduce yourselves and we can go from there.
Good evening. My name is Vera Added. Hello to your audience. Hello to the listening audience. Happy New Year to everyone. Glad to be on again tonight.
Hi, my name is Grace Corentin Goa. I am the president of Liberian Women Advocacy Network International, Lawani, and I'm happy to be here with you, Ashford, on your Bridge Radio Africa.
Okay. Uh, Dapo.
Yes, Happy New Year to everyone. We look forward to a very challenging year because there will be a lot of things happening this year. And all I ask is for God to give everybody the strength, the good health, the opportunity to yet again participate in another election. So I would like to say thank God for crossing us over, and we look forward to Him who give us strength, knowledge, and understanding. And Happy New Year to everyone on the panel here. I hope that your resolution, your prayers will be answered by the Almighty God, likewise myself. Mr. Garley, thank you so much for the opportunity. As always, back to you, sir. Thank you.
Joining us for the first time, Aliyu V. Kamara. Welcome to the show. Tell us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
You can see Aliyu face, so let the man try to lower his chair down or raise his camera up.
You can see my face now?
No, yes, you look very good. You look very good. Thank you. I just my instinct, when we do the team score in our meeting around the world, we have used our instinct. Long time, Ali, long time. You better
I
go.
know, I
Remember
know.
asking for you. So you better go
I,
report to general. Remember asking for you.
I couldn't wait to meet Grace. At least I'm very opportune to meet Grace. I wanted to really meet this woman, this
Oh,
tough,
thank
tough
you.
woman.
What happened to
Nice to meet you, Aliyu.
what happened to very
Yeah.
soon? Well, just before we are warming up now, but just before we begin, what a entertainment blunder of the weekend in Liberia. A very powerful musician, Kiss Daniels, went to Liberia, and folks, I want you guys to weigh in. What do you make of the blunder that happened at the weekend in Liberia? Grace,
Why you choose me first?
call your lady.
I would like to hear from Randy.
All right, let me go first since you have given me the opportunity. I think I see this very laughing with it. I would say it's poor planning. There's always something called prior planning prevent poor performance. I think the timing was wrong, especially on the eve of the new year. So those who organized the program, I think they actually feel themselves. It's just good to speak that I believe they don't have that much experience because doing something from time to time you will learn and you will be able to improve. Because I wouldn't take any program on the eve of Liberia, especially knowing the culture, how religious we are. So I think it was a letdown and a lesson learned. So those who are the organizer need to hold themselves accountable. You got to understand the timing, you got to understand the culture, and you got to understand who the artist is.
Thank
So
you.
that's all I have to say in regards to that. Now back to Grace.
Oh, all right. Thank you, Randy. But I don't. What happened in Liberia? I felt very sad watching. You know how Liberians have that crab in the bucket mentality. Pulling you pull each other down is a culture. And although I think that the planning was kind of a little bit shaky, but there is no set time when you want to have a concert, especially when you're having a big artist. Liberians always claim to be, oh, very religious people. You are not. You fought a war that killed 250,000 people. People were killed on the pool for no reason during those time. And so you can't claim to be religious, but killing is one of your main things that you do. And so you can choose to have a concert anytime. I always plan concerts, and it just depends on the crowd you have, the kind of people you can pull. The people will show up no matter what. I felt that what happened was very poor when it comes to Liberians accepting other people because they cannot even accept their own people. We are divided in the country because of tribalism, and so they're doing it now to the outside world. Case Daniel is not no easy artist. This man has white people dancing to his music. He's major, so we should have put any differences aside, anything anybody have, and still welcome the man to the country. It's like if a Liberian major artist, if they have any, go to Nigeria, will you expect the people to reject them like that? It was a shame on Liberian people part. It was very shameful, and I think they will pay dearly for this. Thank you.
Aliyu?
Yeah, honestly, I have no insight. I did not follow it, so I request to plead the fifth.
Okay. Vera, please omit your device.
Well, I follow it a little bit. I didn't follow it in depth for a little bit that from the little bit that I heard of it. I think part of it was poor planning. I think part of it was on both sides. The artist that was supposed to perform, and on the side of the Liberian pool also, because as an upcoming artist, you should be able to make yourself available whenever you can, so that you can be exposed to the outside world in any career. You can be major in our career, and you still have to start from somewhere. We in the edit level, for example, if we go for a job interview, some people got master's degree, some people got PhD degree, and when they go to certain jobs or employment, they have to drop low. They have to start from entry level with all the qualification. They have to start from somewhere. So there is always somewhere to start from to get back to where you are. On the other hand, the artist, I don't hold her responsible. I'm glad that she was able to stand her ground. She was able to stand for what she wanted, and I applaud her for it, because many a times we Liberian people, we get pushed around a lot, and we don't stand our ground because people tend to plead with us, and we become sympathetic and we cut ourselves short. So I applaud her for standing her ground. At the same time, I think she should have weighed the other side and think about the further exposure, the bigger exposure, because like I say, we all got to start from entry level. It doesn't matter how mega you are in your own world. When you're getting on the bigger stage, you got to start from entry level, and that's just my little small opinion.
Well, thank you, Mr. Adi. Welcome to the show. Did you follow the concert, the kids Daniel concert in Liberia the weekend? Your phone is muted.
No, Ashford, I certainly didn't follow that concert on the weekend, but I'm certainly looking to be educated on what happened.
Well, speaking of sabotage, according to the lady, she says she was approached by this promoter called Double H. Double H said to her, "Listen, sell the concert idea or sell the brand to a very powerful politician. If you don't do this, the concert will fail." And the lady said to Double H, "Listen, I've worked hard for this. This is my brand. You can't come to tell me to sell the idea or sell my concert to a politician. I planned for this since a year now, and I have people started working on this concert for 5, 6 months. So how will I turn my concert to a politician? I'm sorry, I can't do that." And the next thing you know, this is the result that we saw at the weekend. Grace, Vera, Randy.
Um, I know most of the time, as you can see, as for we Liberians, you have your idea. At least they told her to sell her idea or her dream, which I think she did the right thing, because when you have structured your idea or your dream, no other person can execute it the way that you as a person have that thing playing in your mind or whatsoever you have crafted it on. They will not be able to execute it the way you want it. So I always encourage people, when you have a dream or an idea, it's good for you to carry it on to the end for yourself, because you will be disappointed at the end of the day if you give it to people. But as you know, like normally, they will steal your ideas, they will steal your dreams. I mean, they cannot come out to create. They are not creative set of people. A few of us will create, but the rest of the people will, try to take your creativity. I was wondering why they haven't your soccer game yet. I sure nobody know how to do it. I sure some people try, but they can't do it. Or else you have a lot of people doing soccer games around here, because that's who that I mean the society is society debates that kind of thing other these people. But I know that because they wanted her to do that and she refused to do that. So the sabotage started before she even knew it from the beginning. But being that she's a diaspora Liberian, so she never even knew the depth of the evil that those people do in that country. But I experienced it firsthand because I went to Liberia every year until 2018. So I experienced it. So I know what that woman went through. And I know that whatsoever she had put in it, I know God will repay her because she went with a good heart. And once you have a good heart, anything you do, God will bless you for it.
Okay. Well, and anybody else who switch gear
Yeah,
from
let me.
subject tonight?
Oh, go ahead, Sis Vera. Go ahead. My bad.
I just wanted to say I agree with Grace. As usual, we Liberian, we suffer from that dependency syndrome. We're so dependent till we want to be dependent on other people's careers, and to the point that we want to take it from them. We're always asking them to, when people have created what they created or have come up with their ideas, there are those who out there who want to get credit for your idea. They want to get credit for your intellectual property. They want to get credit for everything you own. And I'm glad she stood her ground and she didn't compromise, because compromise is the nature of Liberians in Liberia and in the diaspora. Everything they compromise it. And I'm just glad that she stood her ground, even to the sabotage. And like Grace said, she would be replenished in due season. But I'm glad she stood her ground, didn't compromise her values.
Okay, Randy.
Yeah. I think we have to be very fair and balanced here to set standard as to how we place things. I think just to throw everything on Liberian, it would be very unfair. Yes, why? If the first generation of Liberian that came from Africa, coming from Liberia, and in the country that we're not going nowhere. If God were to tell them, say, look, you got to get old, you got to die for a new generation to come here, and they have said, we're not going nowhere, that was going to be very unfair. My point here is there are times that we should understand that generation got to change. And the way generation change and improve is for us to pass down our education. As an engineer, as a pastor, raised as an advocate, Brother Ali, I don't know his profession. There were people who did those things before we came here. So it's called hand over and pass over. I think what we need to understand is when things are passed over to you, Mr. Garley, you always commentate and get about to corruption, keep on, turn around, you pass the ball this way. The way you say the thing, there are people who came before you that did the same thing, but because you dedicated yourself to it, we need to understand that when responsibility are given to people, we expect them to utilize their own experience and their understanding. And it should, in case something goes wrong, they need to come and continue to provide feedback in the form of communication to us to know what's going on. You can't assume for somebody when they are not provided you the information. I think that is unfair to the conversation here today. The lady need to explain herself. She need to be asked questions. Those who need to call, they will be obligated to come in and ask questions. But to just blanket the blame like that, I find it very unfair in this conversation here. Give it back to you, Ashford.
Okay.
Ashford, can I come in?
Yes, Grace.
Randy, for your information, the lady, she was asked question on Liberian News Agency, and she explained what had happened concerning her planning this thing for, I think, for a year or more, and the people that she interacted with, the meetings that she had. So the lady already had come in, she already explained her story. Now we don't care about the other people if they don't want to come in and explain the story.
No, we should be care. We should
No,
be
no, we will not care. You know why? Because the thing happened and we saw the program being messed up. So what she had explained already, we already understand what she coming from. So no matter what they come and explain, we seen the program was sabotaged because they asked her to sell her dream to a political party or maybe a head of a political party. That was not fair to her. So you can say you can speak what you want to speak, but you can't say, oh, it's unfair. The conversation is not unfair. Everybody cannot be asked a question at one time for something that happened before we understand it. You can understand it from a one person point of view. We're asking everybody a question concerning it. We take maybe all year for everybody to come out to explain what already had happened.
What I want to establish this is the root cause of something. You know, when things happen, you got to first of all create a platform where you will determine the root cause to prevent a repeat. So if we don't get to the other sources, I would see that as a very unfair decision on anybody's part. I would just listen to her and say yes. Even if that were in your situation and something went against you, to be honest, you will want to know what the other side has said. But that's something that I would see as a lesson learned from here. If I'm doing something, I will make sure that I be very transparent, be very objective, feed things back, get on different platforms.
Well, some of the names that were mentioned in the interview with DJ Blue, and I think DJ Blue plans to come on the same network to say his side of the story.
Correct.
But I want to ask Grace this question, then we can probably segue into our main topic. The lady said, you see, a lot of people don't plan to fail. They failed to plan. Okay. The lady said she was advised not to do the program on the eve of New Year. That's the wash night. But then she continued to do the program simply because she said the private jet that was chartered would have cost $1,000 an hour, 1,000 US dollar an hour. And the fact that Case Daniels were already in the country, she wanted him to perform because risking him not performing would cost her additional $20,000 to $24,000 just for the private jet staying overnight. And I believe that one of the reasons why she went on and did a concert.
Well, as for in the real world, I go to concert here in America all the time. I'm supposed to go to New Edition this year. I think early this year, maybe February or March. And sometimes they come on Thursday. These people come on Friday. The program is sold out. If you are interested in a particular artist, it doesn't matter what day you have it on. Liberians, they will still go to church and they will still come back and they will go to the program if they wanted to really see that artist. We cannot continue to conform to the people way of life before we cannot conform to, oh, they will not do this. We have to have it this time because this time will not happen. There are people who really want to see that artist. That if Mr. Ade is coming somewhere, he's a pastor. I said, Mr. Ade is coming to preach to this church. If I have to go to work on Wednesday and I want to see Mr. Ade preach, I will call off on Wednesday and go to the preaching because I want to hear him.
Grace, I know Rennie wants to come in, but how many Liberians in Liberia can afford to go online to buy ticket? The woman said she went with the idea of going online so people can buy ticket instead of selling paper ticket. She said, "You go online, order your ticket." Everybody complain about data in the country. Who going online to buy ticket for online when people can find food to eat?
There are people complain about data, but they all honor the video costing people when you come on. So how they got data to even do that? I don't care you come on when you come on in the afternoon, you come on in the night, 2 o'clock in the morning, they honor their costing. So if they got data to do that, they will have data to go and buy the ticket. We cannot stick to the 1940s. This is 2022 to 23. People use phone to do things now. Everybody cannot stay. They say, "Oh no, I can't use computer." So we cannot keep the people stagnant. We have to do other things for their minds to open because like people have a set mindset. It's just sitting there. So we have to change. So the girl was right. She was trying to teach them new ways. That's what she was trying to do. And as far as her side of the story, there were other people's side of the story, Rennie. Some of the artists then came out to say the part of the story. So I listened to the part of the story. I listened to her side of the story. I think the size of the story I listened to is enough for me to make my conclusion on this whole thing. Yeah.
So
Sis Grace, I listened to you, and I'm sure everyone did. What I just gathered from you is show that the planning process did not understand the cultural mindset of our generation. You see, the way and structure in which you grew up is not the way current generation look like. So, as a marketing strategy, you want to understand the culture of the people. While it is true that you may believe that our people are not religiously centric, it has just disproved that belief of yours. Because one of the reasons that the people did not turn up, Liberians want to live in the new year. They believe that going to church, bringing all their things to the table, at the end of the year is very essential. So whoever planned that program, there are times that you say, this day is not right. This day is right. Even planning in America here, there are times that you have to work with people who understand the culture. DJ Blue is not somebody's street to concert. He went to Uganda, traveled there, and understand what it means to pull a crowd. And that is one of the reasons why I want to listen to you. As far as internet data go, my sister, Mosoaro got 1.1 million people. A few handful of people you see over there, they are not a representation of the population of Mosoaro County before I even talk about the population of Liberia.
Thank you.
So, a few people out there, it's not true. It's all based on assessment. Back to you, Ashford.
Okay. Well, folks, again, welcome to the program tonight. The Congo and country divide. I hate to use the word Congo. I hate to use the word country, but this is where we find ourselves, unfortunately. And tonight I will begin with the backstory. And with that, I will want Mrs. Adi to just bring us up to speed, start us off from where we left last week. And Mr. Kamara is joining us for the first time tonight. And we've got a lot of talk to do tonight. So, Ira?
Bring us up to speed from where we left out last week.
Yes.
Yeah, but last week we were talking about reconciliation. There were many things laid out when he talked about the TRC. He talked about documents that were gathered and compiled in Ghana to help us to move forward as Liberians, how to live and how to govern accordingly. And we talk about several other issues, foundational issues, where we think the problem started from, and what we think it should go, who we think are responsible for the problems, and we all agree that, well, not everybody. Some people agree it was half and half. Some people agree that they both sides should come to the table and apologize to each other and move on. And then some other people say no. It's only one side. It's only one side that need to move forward. And so here we are, and the conversation continues.
Grace?
We were getting to a resolution. All of a sudden, Mr. Aliyu Kamara, he called in and he carried us. He going to take us way back from the beginning. So we are ready to go back to the beginning because he made a call and said against the American Liberians. And he said he placed like 3 different incidents where they did things that were not right. So us leaving the show was like, okay, there you go again. Ali then coming to blame instead of us come together and say, you know what, 2 sides, they did, which was wrong. And we know that we were wrong. We shouldn't divide ourselves anymore because, as Mr. Ade said, I think 2 weeks ago when he came on the show first, said that the people who stole slaves, we are not them. The people who went back to Liberia, and I mean, we are not them. Our great-great-grandparents that did that. So, and the people, the American Liberians who went back to Liberia and whatsoever they did at your feet that they did, we are not there. So why are we still fighting? The war was fought. People was killed because they derived from that particular stuff. Why are we yet still fighting on this matter? So Aliyu brought us back, so we are prepared to go back.
Thank you. Thank you. So
where are we coming from here?
So I'll bring in Rennie, and then Aliyu and Idatus will follow.
Actually, before Rennie comes in, somebody got like a big echo. Like I keep hearing like
Idatus, please mute your phone. Idatus. Okay, go ahead, Rennie.
I think I stay hearing them as that they
Aliyu, you want to mute your phone, please?
Ashford.
No, not from me.
Yeah, I need to know it.
Okay.
I mean,
can you still hear it? Can you still hear it?
No.
It's better.
Okay.
Okay. Meet your phone. Unmute your phone.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think it depends on how Ashford want to run the show between Pastor Ade and Aliyu, because we have covered more ground than just trying to undo everything. So I think Ashford just have to present. I mean, allow whatever Aliyu has to say, whatever Pastor Ade has to say, whatever we have to say.
I think it will be fair tonight to begin with Aliyu, because according to Ira, I'm still getting this feedback. I don't know what's going on tonight.
Yeah.
When you're not talking, you need to mute your phone when you're not speaking.
You know, according to Vera, we were getting somewhere with the process of talking about reconciliation, and then Aliyu came in with a phone call firing, and that tipped off a lot of folks. And then want to hear what he had to say tonight. And then he got, besides him being a pastor, he's also a historical enthusiast. So,
Aliyu, I think it's your phone. You need to turn it. You need to mute it.
Yeah. I'm trying to, but every time I mute it, I still get it. And the only time this happens is when Ashford is speaking. So I don't know if it's me or if it's Ashford.
okay, go ahead and speak now, Aliyu.
Okay. Okay, so Randy, you wanted to know my profession. I actually went to school for healthcare administration, a program that I've actually never used. I've never gotten paid for. I'm always in procurement, working in different departments, engineering as machine operator. Now I work, well, I don't want to call my position before you think I'm making money, but now I work somewhere in customer service. And so that's how I'm making my living. But let me just say, I have not come here today to ostracize any of, I like to say 17, a lot of people say 16, any of the 17 ethnic group. The reason I say 17, Congo/American Liberian, they're also an ethnic group. But on paper, they did not include themselves. You know, I know officially they got squatting right on the Provident Island in 1822. However, Liberia became a country in 1847. Therefore, even if they were white people, they automatically became Liberian. So the question is now who is more Liberian, who is not. I wouldn't make such an argument. The point for this discussion is to find a common ground. It's a reconciliatory conversation so that we all can move forward. Aliyu has not come to challenge anyone's intelligence or education. I just wanted to make that clear. The point I made the other day that somehow aroused some people emotion is that everyone in this thing has to accept their side and what they did. When the descendants of quote-unquote American Liberians go to Liberia, their independence is from 1847. What they celebrate is from the day 1822, they say, or 1820, 200-year celebration. And that sparks up a lot of stuff because there were people there who had nations. For example, Zulu Duma, whom people wrote about and referred to him as King Peter, even though he never ever knew why he was alive, that his name was King Peter. But his palace in Looking Town, no one here knows where that palace was ever located. However, we know the church where the Declaration of Independence was signed. We know all of those things. But how come Zulu Duma, aka King Peter, who a pistol was pointed to his head to forcibly give squatting rights to immigrants from the United States, doesn't have a history, an actual artifact to show, even though we know he had a palace. Now, I'd like to take you back just a little bit. And again,
1 minute.
Yeah. Oh, I got 1 more minute? Okay. So let's look at just simple things, because this is a long thing. We have historical component, historical factor, everything that we're saying here. Let's go back to probably 1869. The global and crew situation. What was the intervention of the American Liberians? Let's go to 1854, when the place of Maryland, under the Maryland Colonization Society, declared their independence, which they were not very much acknowledged. When the global and crew people decided that they felt excluded in the administration of Maryland, the government of Maryland at the time asked the Liberian government to assist them. What did the Liberian government do when they went to Maryland? How much destruction did they carry out when they went to Maryland? When the University of Liberia was established in 1862, started to run in 1863, how many students of the locals were allowed to go to the University of Liberia? Up to 1948, the University of Liberia only has 70 students, and you have to be Degesi and Robertson and all of those things. There's a whole line of stuff, but as we go on, we'll discuss more.
Okay, so so what I heard was expression of dates without any direct context in speaking of reconciliation. It is fair that I only provide some education here with respect to international relations and nation building. These days we don't refer to countries as empire. So when Liberia's first constitution was written in 1820, before it became 1847 an independent country, there were 3 counties: Grand Bassa, Meseredo, and Sino. Those were the 3 counties that came together and formed what we now call Liberia today. It was not until 1857 that Maryland joined. And the reason why Maryland joined, because the French and the British were pressuring them Other counties later on decided to join Liberia because they saw the development that was happening in Mesorado County, which is the capital, which is Monrovia itself. And that's how they joined. Now, there are several historical accounts as to how they were able to acquire land. Lands were negotiated. Please do not forget that General Robert Stockton was the same man that was going back and forth on the waters of Liberia to prevent the capture and selling of Africans. So there are different historical accounts in the context of how land was acquired. May I also remind you, you mentioned squatting rights. The Dey and the Gola people went to Liberia in the 12th century, followed by the Kwa, the Grebo, the Kru in the 16th century. That's how nations started. Were there kingdoms? Were there tribesmen living in clans and they had their own authority? Absolutely. Absolutely. But in the context of nation building, and that is why when Liberia became independent, not even America recognized Liberia, it was Germany. So that's the history. I rest.
Grace?
Can I come in 1 minute?
Aliu, you're not gonna get one
Grace, Grace,
yes, sir. You saying
Grace,
that?
Grace, 1 minute. Let me get Aliu 30 seconds, then you can come in, please.
Yeah, all of the things the man explained, if we decide that we want to elaborate on those things, we're talking about at least 10 hours a day. Okay, there's nothing he said that we do not already know. Okay, the fact of the matter, what we are trying to put down here for everyone, especially our audience, to understand is that those people who now think that, oh, the rebels did this, they did that, and those other people did this, the country people have done that, they have to take responsibility because they set the foundation. And we can give you so many discrepancies that they brought, that they introduced. No, let me tell you, Ashford, anything you do, whatever your son sees you do, that's what he does. That's what we're trying to bring you.
Thank you. Grace?
So if you're setting the foundation, sir, you have to set the foundation from the beginning when your forefathers sold the people into slavery. That's the foundation you need to sell. When your mother and father look at you and sell you to another group of people of not their skin color into slavery because they're looking for money and they're looking for alcohol and weapon to fight for a land that they did not even own, because in the 16th century, I think in the 14th century leading to the 15th century, Liberia, there was nobody in West Africa, no human being in that place. The people who came from the east and the north migrated to that area to look for food.
I don't know where Grace and get her history from.
Oh, but I got the history because I got document. These things I tell you, I send the information to Ashford.
Please allow her to
complete. I don't come here and just speak. Okay. So if you're talking about squatting rights, we know you're Liberians. Even when we go buy our land, like we buy the land, we pay for it. The people who sold it to us, they still sell it to somebody else. So you're talking about like America Liberians and have squatting rights? No. New York Times carried it in 2021. New York Times. Patrick Burroughs, who was a Liberian man, he's a Liberian professor, worked many years here in America in the university, did almost a decade worth of study on Liberian history. When he went into the deeper archive, he found a deed that the Maserati era was purchased with $300 worth for alcohol and rum, and that is same alcohol and merchandise, because the squatter who is the indigenous, because they were squatting, and they were passerbys, they wanted to fight to own position on the different areas. So you cannot come here and tell us, say, American Liberians were squatters. No, they wanted to own squatter rights. No, your people, indigenous, wanted to own squatters' rights. The American Liberians, that land was bought from them by Robert Stockton and Ali Ayers. They have a paperwork with their signature on it. Because the indigenous already started fighting the first time the people came with a ship. They were already fighting a lot of times because they were squatting land and knew that, life was coming to that land when they saw that ship. So now they wanted to own places. So when they put the American Liberia down in the Bassa area, there was too many things going on beside the mosquito were killing the people. So they had to go back and come back. That's when they established to pay for Maserati side, for the people to live on Maserati side and own that area. So at the end of the day, when you want to talk about squatting, the indigenous were the squatters. Thank you.
As well, let's correct something quick.
Hold on. When we get to you, you can respond to that.
Okay.
It's funny how it's funny how the American Liberians are referred to as squatters, and we in the American Liberians don't get upset about being referred to as squatters. But then when you refer to the indigenous people, the people who refer to themselves as indigenous, as being there and owning kingdoms and having cultures established, when you refer to them as squatters on the land, then they get vexed and say, no, they were not squatters. So they are willing to call other people squatters, but they don't want people to call them squatters, whereas they were just there, passing through. You can't stop here. You will rest for a couple of days, months on end, and then you take off and go to the next area. It's funny. I mean, what a double standard. You call me a squatter, but I call you a squatter, then you get so upset and you want to jump through the roof. It's just absolutely wrong. It just tells you that we all own the land. You cannot call the American Liberian a squatter, because he was there before he left. So if you call him a squatter, then you yourself a squatter, then we are all squatters. So what is the issue here? We all own a place. And this thing where, American Liberians didn't buy land, and American Liberians, they did this, the other person were not in the university, they couldn't go to school, and the other people couldn't work in the government. And if you are not a Johnson, if you are not any kind of thing, you couldn't attend any kind of school. We just talk about and fast forward. I'm fast forwarding. What I'm gonna say is fast forward to us now. It's just funny how when you build things, people always think they have a right to take it from you, or they feel that they have a right to be part of that thing. You can buy a place, buy a land, and I buy a land. We can have our land can be adjacent to each other. You don't develop yours, I develop mine, and for some reason you feel entitled to the development that is going on my side. And that is happening even now in current day Liberia. Even now, I always tell Grace, I say in current day Liberia right now, all those land that is selling and double selling, the day the people, because some of those people will die off, the day that children go back to claim that land, that those people are selling to different types of people, they will start fighting and say, oh, the people trying to steal the land, and they never sold it. All the lands are going on now. Why is it that after the war, all the people, you're talking about squatters' right and squatter this, all the people that are squattering in people's property that have Liberia because of war, why we can't get them off the property?
Thank you.
Why?
Rennie?
Yes, I think actually, I think that
Say that again.
I think that wave sound coming from your mic.
Then Ashford Garley, turn that phone close to me. Let's see.
Okay, let me do mine.
It actually comes from Ashford.
Yeah, it comes from Ashford.
All right.
What so, your content, but outside coming from Ali. I hear where coming from.
Go ahead, Randy.
Your sensitivity to this thing, you need to let it go. You remember from the far west, Midwest of this country. But anyway, guys, it is interesting that we keep going back and forth here, but I think it would be appropriate to bring an African American.
Yeah, you need to shut your mute. You need to put your mute there.
Yeah, I'm muting right now.
Okay.
I think it will be.
Try it, Randy.
Yeah, just let it go. We'll take a while. Let me just continue to talk. I'll just that and talk. I think it would be fair in the long run, Brother Ashford, to get an African American scholar, a Liberia scholar, in the era of emancipation, slavery, to come and discuss this issue here. Even though I took some courses, it was just an elective for me. But from 1625, when the slaves were being taken out of Africa.
You all took courses, brother.
Listen to me, please, my sister.
Do not interrupt the man.
Yes.
Let this go
From
out.
1675, yes, 25 to 1865. The slaves that came from Africa did not come from the coast along the West African coast. They were going inside of Africa in the villages where they were being sold to the Portuguese that had the slave trade started. When they came back, because they were afraid to go inside, they decided to stay at the coastal line area. And as we all know it, Montserrat County was giving to the American Organization Society to resettle the returned slave. Those that returned just wanted to limit their geography to Montserrat County. A piece of land was acquired and given to them. That was fine. But what they decided to do, they wanted to establish a country. But then the geography of that country was not limited to Montserrat County. So in that discussion between here and there, the folks in Liberia that was used to be Montserrat County decided to carry on their own development. And there's nothing wrong with that. There was absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's just that other folks felt that those who were already in a geographic called Liberia, the 43,000 square miles, wanted the total participation of the others. But there was some resistance because they had Liberia College and they had other things going on. And that had many development took place. So when David Coleman came to power, and you guys go and read our history, go to pbs.com. When David Coleman came to power, he wanted to extend that relationship to other part of Liberia, and he was only giving one term in office. But throughout that process, they were the educated people that came to re-educate us, the indigenous people. But they limited their knowledge just to Montserrat County. But over time, depending on looking at the social of government, the inclusiveness started. But when the inclusiveness started, it was not structured to bring in a total participation as well. So in the process, certain elite class felt that they were more important than the others as the country continued to merge, and it went afar. But I will continue when I come back to when they merged. What came after that? I will stop there right now.
Okay, Idatus added, then Aliyu.
So I often hear people say, when Liberia was founded, it wasn't intended to include the other geography. The fact remains, Liberia is founded almost just how America was founded. America started with 13 states, but today they got 50 states. Liberia started with 3 counties. In fact, they were called divisions. Okay, from clients to district to divisions, and now they began to expand. That expansion wasn't forceful. William David Coleman, you're talking about, made a concerted effort with President William Taft of these United States to help facilitate policies that will include indigenous in the expansion of the territory, willingly by those other counties, those other geography that wanted to become a part. So they were not forcing them. And when Liberia was started, it was started with only one party, the Republican Party.
Can you can I inject quickly? Can I inject quickly? Why?
No, please do not interrupt the man. When he finishes, hold on, Rennie, please hold on.
All right, I'll make a note over that because there's some misinformation.
That's the best way to do it. Please do not interrupt.
When Liberia was established, they had one party at the time. It was called the Republican Party. Okay, from the folks they call the light skin or the Hulatos. After several years of internal fighting between the light skin and the dark skin, that's how the Chewy Party was born. But through all of that political process, as a nation state, these people were governing within their territories. Montserrat County, a piece of land that they purchased, and then eventually decided to, have other counties become a part of it willingly. And that being said, and I will say for a fact that in every political evolution, there will be struggles. And that was what happened. There was political struggles here and there, but to say it was intended to willfully oppress and enslave, our history does not reflect that.
Aliyu?
Thank you.
It's saying that people bought Montserrat County. That is not true. Todi was never bought. Painesville was never bought. None of those places were bought. Montserrat is a very big place. The President Island around that vicinity were bought, a piece of land, not a county. Let us establish that. Okay? And when somebody say, I said the American Liberians were squatters, I am saying they were squatters, but from 1847 and upward, that question was null and void. Whether they were squatters or not, they were automatically Liberian, like I said. Everybody within a 43,000 square mile, whatever square mile it is now, it was a lot larger than this now. Everybody Liberian, even if there was a white settlement in Liberia, they'll all be Liberian. So let us establish that. You are not a squatter. Okay, at that time you were, but you are not a squatter. Let us establish that. When somebody say Liberia, the establishment of Liberia was like the United States, that's kind of funny. Because we know these states had to apply to join the Confederation. In the case of Liberia, it was already established in many instances. Grand-Bassa did not apply to join Liberia. All of those places did not apply to join Liberia. They were Liberia before the Declaration of Independence, before the Constitution was even written. Let's say, for example, if what you say, if you really believe what you're saying, in 1968, Benjamin Anderson traveled to the hinterland. Why did we refer to it as the hinterland? Okay, President Gardner resigned. I'm coming. Huh? What you say? Hinterland included Bapolu, Grand Cape County, and Lofa County. He went to all of those places. Why did they consider it hinterland if those places were not already considered Liberia? President Gardner resigned because the British took over the Mana River area, including the Silver River. I mean, in Grand Cape, where we know now as Grand Cape County, all of those places across the border, Jendima, all of those places were Liberia. Because those places fell to the British, President Gardner had to resign. So for you to say that Liberia was just a place where people were trying to join because people did this and people did that, let us establish that. That is a wrong information. When somebody also say everybody want to be a part of like Monrovia because somebody developed Monrovia, everybody want to be part of the development. For all the years, the 130 plus or 35 years that the settlers ruled Liberia, show me how many ministries they even had in Montserrat County. There was Samuel Doe built ministry, Ellen Johnson Saliq built ministry, George Weah building ministry. Show me ministry that they built. So there was no development in Liberia under their rule. We know everything was rented. Apartments were being used for ministries.
Thank you.
So you can't tell us that because of the development, everybody want to run to.
Thank you.
We don't have enough time. I really want to expand on this, but go ahead.
Wait, Grace, please. Let me get you to 30 seconds to respond to you.
You know, Ashford Garley is really confusing history. One minute he jumps from the Genesis, and then he fast forward all the way to the front without.
I'm only responding to this.
without contextualizing, and then he superimposed developments. Then he talked about going to school. He has to be able to contextualize our history. What I told him when Liberia was founded, it was 3 counties. 3 counties. The history is very clear. He wants to talk about prosperity. In 1961, Liberia was the 2nd prosperous economy in the world. Do you know that? You want to talk about infrastructure development? Do you know who built your mansion? Topman. Do you know who built JFK? Topman. Do you know who built all of your schools that you have that today folks can go to school? Topman. Do you know who introduced the policy of education? Each one teach one? Topman. So you have to be careful when you start talking about infrastructure development. No indigenous president established the Ministry of Rural Development. It was under the rule of the Americo-Liberians that development began to go into the hinterland. First of all, as Liberia began to expand, the counties that you're talking about, Liberia was geographically called Western, Eastern, and Central. That hinterland that you're referring to, it was William B.S. Stockman that opened up the hinterland. It was
so it existed, right?
Say that again.
Go ahead, Grace.
They didn't come to join. If they did, tell me what year Lofa County joined Liberia.
Aliyu, we'll come to you.
Aliyu, the history tells us very clearly that Maryland joined in 1857. Is that a lie?
Exactly. That's Maryland.
So when Lofa County, can you please tell Ali what Lofa County Johnson?
No, what I'm telling you, Lofa was already a part of Liberia. He is saying that Liberia was only 3 counties. I am telling him that we had a president who resigned because he failed.
Let me hold you there, Aliyu Idatus, please hold on there.
Right.
Okay.
Let me go on mute.
And by the way, for the information, Aliyu, it is your mark that's giving the feedback on the picture now.
Okay. Let me pause it quick.
Go ahead, Grace.
Well, New York Times stated in 2021 that various sources will later provide huge inflation number for borrowers deduced and let me just read again. Various sources will later provide hugely inflation numbers, but Patriot borrows from an 1824 map that the initial purchase involved only 140 acres into the Maserati area. If I said the entire Maserati, maybe that was a mistake. But it says that the first purchase, so it means that there was several purchases that took place. So now you're seeing that okay, other counties came and they joined. In America, yeah, other states came and they joined. They didn't depend on Washington, D.C. or New York to develop them. They were able to develop themselves. They put their work together. They put their sweat together. But most Liberians don't know how to work for anything. They always want to depend on people to do the work for them and establish things. And they just come and sweep it for under your feet. We are experiencing it right now in our organization. You know, they don't want to put their work together. They don't want to put their ideas together. They don't want to put their goals together. As soon as they see somebody else do it and they want to come and sweep it for under your feet. So what we want to establish here with this conversation is that we are tired and we are sick and tired of people seeing that American Liberians have no rights to Liberia. All we want to establish is that each of us should see each other as we are. We are Liberians and we all have rights. This so-called the way the government was structured, that's why I never brought maybe civilization or maybe infrastructure to the other countries. It's not fair because the people who sat on the Maserati side was able to develop their side and they reached out to other countries to help. But only the people in those countries decided not to want to develop their side because they wanted to come to where everywhere was developed and live that life. They should have decided that, you know what, we are added to the country Liberia, our countries are being added. We'll make sure we develop our country. So we don't want people to be excluding, and as exactly what you said, even when they're naming the tribes, they exclude American Liberians. But with all American Liberians, there will be no Liberia. The America owe you, the America they owe you because of American Liberians. If the slaves were not sent back to Liberia, the people won't give a damn about your country. So if you eliminate this set of people, you have no rights to America. What makes you have rights to America? So that's what we see. At the end of the day, we are one. We don't want to be going back and forth with this whole thing because it brings division in our country. And that's the reason why we are voting the wrong presidents in. Because people will say, oh, that we were voting our son of the soil. Not knowing the son of the soil, he got no baboon. He can't even decide anything. He can't even make decisions in your own family life before we give him our whole country. So we're just saying for our people to see the best person, regardless of what country they come from, what country they came from, whether they're American Liberians or not, the person is Liberian. And if they have the capacity and the knowledge and the wisdom and the intelligence to be a president, we should put that person in so Liberia can move forward. Because since we know now, since 1980, Liberia have someone sorted way back. And you were bringing it by, and someone sorted double someone sorted into the slum. So we just saying we cannot continue going back and forth with this thing.
Thank you.
We are Liberians. Thank you.
Well, folks, if you just joining us, this is Ashford Garley live on Brace Radio Africa. I'd like to say hi and Happy New Year to Mr. Bobby Wiles. I also like to say thank you, Mr. Bobby Wiles, for your contribution. And thank you, Mr. Willie Double, for your contribution as well. Ms. Wilhelmina Clark, thank you so much for your contribution. Duke the Fearless Clark Williams is in the building, folks. Let's continue to have this discussion. Vera?
Well, you know, maybe since we have 16 tribes, we have 16 tribes in Liberia, Maybe now we need to go back to 17. Maybe the American Liberians actually need to come and take their seat, because for a long time we've been excluded from, when they're listing the tribes, we've been excluded. And I think that is the reason why we are now saying that there is no pure Congo. You know, after when we had the first and the second conversation, someone called me and said, you know what, it's wrong for you and Grace to say there is no American Liberians, that there is no 100% American Liberians. That is not true. We do have American Liberians, and they are American Liberians. And I kind of thought about it, and I said, yeah, you know, even though most of the time now we are all mixed up, but that ethnic population still exists. And I think it's now time for them to be, when we are listening to the tribes, you know, all of the tribes of Liberia, I think American Liberians need to be included in that. Maybe we are not being included, or they're not being included. And that is the reason why people think they are strangers to Liberia. The people refer to them as squatters. And people tell them that they never bought anything, and that they never built anything since 1847. Nothing has ever been built in Liberia. Whereas when we were growing up, we heard stories, and during our parents' time, and when we could recognize, we saw that Liberia was a prosperous nation. As a matter of fact, on the continent of Africa, Liberia was, everybody was envious of Liberia. At a point in time, people used to fly from other countries to go to Liberia to seek medical care. People wanted visa to come to the United States, they flew to Liberia. People wanted to live well, they flew to Liberia. A lot of foreigners flew to Liberia and established there, and that is the reason why a lot of Liberians even have foreign backgrounds. A lot of us in Liberia, when you check our lineage, we have foreign backgrounds too, because a lot of foreigners flew from their nations and flew into Liberia for a better life. So for people to continue the narrative to say that, oh, since 1847, nothing was ever built. No indigenous ever went to school in Liberia. It was only American Liberians and their children. And I was telling Grace the other day, I said, you know what, Grace, these people are they're very bad people. Most of them that work in the government, right? The government, in my opinion, and I could be absolutely wrong, but that is just my opinion I'm about to state here. I believe that thing what it say that only American Liberians were running the government, it was all elite, that's a lie. Because you know why I think it's a lie? I think that most of the people that came from other places, that came to Monrovia, that either lived with American Liberians or didn't live to American Liberians, and made their way and got educated, they got into the government. Some of them changed their names, and they never changed it back to their indigenous names. And so they were working in the government, but they were considered American Liberian, but their lineage were never of the American Liberian descent. So that government, where they say, oh, the only Congo people in power, that's a lie. It was a mixture of the Congo people and the indigenous people, because the indigenous people took the Congo people name and refused to let it go because they wanted to identify. They wanted to be in the mix. And so,
Well, can I ask you a question?
Grace, I beg you. Your time.
No, I would like to ask you a question.
No, don't answer. I'm the one asking the
Do you
question.
agree?
I beg you, Grace. Please hold on. Let you finish.
And so because of that, everybody tend to blame the Congo man. Oh, the Congo man ruled and he excluded the indigenous. That is not true, because a lot of indigenous were in the government that carried the Congo people name that were not of the Congo lineage. And so all of them, they just lumped them all under the umbrella. I feel that our government was inclusive. If people would have gone back to the original names they came with, we would know by now we wouldn't be having this argument or trying to exclude. But then I want to say, I will end and say that when they listen to tribes of Liberia, it's about time we put the Congo people back in there, because that person clearly told me, you and Grace are absolutely wrong. There are people of American Liberian descent that still exist. That population exists. You shouldn't say they are no more, and they are not pure anymore. They are purely there.
Okay, we'll go to J. Rennie, Idatus, then Aleo. But just before we go to Rennie, let me ask this question to Grace. Grace, I keep hearing people say we want our country back. Y'all want your country back from whom? Their country belongs to every Liberian. But people keep saying we need our country back. We want our country back. From whom? You want the country from?
Well, and that's what we want to establish. And that is the reason why I even wanted to ask Vera quickly, and you don't have to answer right now, but I wanted to say, if they see that people was not inclusive, I don't know how Bwaka went to school. Joseph Bwaka went to school, right? Where in the 1940s? So how did he go to CWA again? and he was indigenous. So y'all stop. I mean, the lies that have been told in history are just bad. And I don't think any American Liberian should be telling people they want their country back, because the country belongs to all of us. We want to establish that. And the reason why I think American Liberians or descent will say that, because the indigenous keep on saying that they will never get our country again. We took our country from them. So everybody just holding their country like they just fighting. Yeah. They will never, no American Liberian, no Congo man will rule the country. One boy used to be on my post. Where you remember her name? I think her name was
Christmas City. Christmas City.
In fact, one time I made a post. We opened a platform called Descendants of American Liberians, because we are descendants of American Liberians. So I opened that platform. We're inviting people. Peace be to him. Actually, Christmas City went on the post. He took my entire post, put it on his page, called my girl, who my mom helped to even stay to school in Looking Town. He called Piso City. Piso City myself went to Lakiri. He called all the government officials. Y'all come with the Congo Poachman. They coming can't talk again. They say they coming to will never allow them to Sunday. They will not exist. But meanwhile, they get local association, Grand Judah Association, they Crew People Association. So when this in America, like want to be made their own association, that power inside.
I can for your Congo Association. Nothing wrong with it.
Exactly. We already from it.
Thank you, great Rennie.
Yes, I mean, for me, I will try to discuss this thing in context and timeline, so that way those who are listening will get to understand. Now, what I would like to start from is what I stopped when you told me my time was up, and that is the merger. The American Liberian, the settler that came to the country, they decided to limit their development within their geographic. But notwithstanding, there were people who left that country in the 16th century that they took beyond that Montserrat region, that area. So when they came back, the question here is, why did they only establish infrastructure development within that geographic? And like Aliyu said, they also named the hinterland. Who in the first place began to name the tribes? And when the tribe were being named, they were there. The question here is, did they accept to be part of the tribe, or they decided to stay to what they wanted to be because they wanted to maintain an elite class? So when Tubman came to power, after David Coleman was denied of expanding the leadership beyond their geographic, they declined and did not give David Coleman the opportunity. So when Tubman came, Tubman decided to go beyond using ship, and he came up with open door policy. And most of the natural resources, let's say if the people of Liberia in our mindset that say, all right, let's give the people the Liberia they're talking about. You don't have Nima, you don't have Lova. What would be your major source of income? Just the blue economy, that's the Atlantic Ocean you're getting the seafood from? No, there were people who just wanted to limit the power within Montserrat County. And based on that, they decided to develop the country. And that's why today we have a massive uneducated people across the country. Now, to my sister Grace, who said that Une Congo people took America to Africa? What about Ghana? What about Sierra Leone? What about Egypt? What America is doing over there? I think to discuss it, just take note. I think it will be better for us to look at the way forward. Everybody was wrong in the situation here. From the beginning, if the American Liberian has said the original sin of Liberia is illiteracy, anyone within our geographic, before you turn 20 years old, you must graduate from high school. We will not be having the conversation here. The reason people take on from Yapawolo to Johnson is because the opportunity was limited. The way I speak, the way other people speak, some people are very good in writing, some people are very good. It is because of the educational background. But we're from the same country though. But how much effort was being made today? So with all the mistakes we're making, I see it as ignorance and poor governance. So how do we fix the ignorance and how do we fix the poor governance? It is to look at where all the wrongs are and begin to fix them. But from what I see you doing, Grace, in all honesty, you are creating more division than solution, to be honest.
You yourself. You are creating more division.
Okay.
Because you know what you said? No, he said that they should develop. Just like
Yeah, because I'm looking at the results.
Okay.
Grace.
I just
Grace,
muted
I'm
Grace.
looking at the
She
results.
was not listening. I just muted her. Now you spoke for 3 minutes uninterrupted. Okay, I know what I'm doing here. Grace, I will give you 30 seconds to respond. Then we'll go to the doctors. Go ahead, Grace.
Ashford, Rennie, when you're saying that when the country was created, in fact, you said that you went around and said they went to Ghana and they went to this, but this is the discussion is about Liberia. Ghanaians are not dividing the people like that. When you come to where I live, they got a Ghanaian African store. You will see the Ghanaians then go in there, they will buy, they will be speaking that tree sometimes and say, hey man, I wish I could understand the thing, the way they will be loving to that particular person, the business owner. If I were to open an African store here, my Liberian people will tell the people not to come buy from me. That's just the nature of Liberia. So you can't say that, oh, the Ghanaians, and you can't compare the other country because the people are patriotic. They are all they are patriot that help one another.
Thank you,
We
Grace.
Liberians, we don't do that. So, and then you can't come and say again that, oh, the American Liberians, they refuse to reach out and develop the other thing. It was not that they never, when they sent it to America, they sent it as slaves. When they came back with a small education and working on the people plantation, the strength they had, it was not to come by and work for the people who sold them as slaves. So if they did not want to do it, you can't hold them to that and say, oh yeah, they did not want to do it. Maybe at that time they did not have that mindset. It was way in the 18th century. So they were just trying to make themselves comfortable first before maybe to look and look at anyone else. So now if the indigenous were going to be very proactive,
I want to ask you to respond for 30 seconds.
Depending on having that dependency syndrome, what they still got. Why we in America's money working with United Nations like where they still asking off for Christmas. That dependency syndrome, what they got in hand. That's what I'm talking about. Instead of them even going to go there and learn and go back to the country and develop the country. So this is not about divide. This is just the fact. And like people don't like to hear the truth. As soon as you say the truth, they label you. Oh, she do this, she do that. But me, I'm a fat talker. I will say as it is. My 30 seconds is over.
2 minutes and 30 seconds. It'll go ahead.
Yes, politically, every nation in its evolution will have challenges regarding political power. Every nation has that issue. In the context of Liberia and our socialization, it took time for integration to happen. As a matter of fact, William R. Talbot is one individual who said, let's bring all of the Liberian symbols together and see how these symbols can represent the unity we are looking for in this country. And what he did was to set up a 50-man commission. To my friend Alio, Lofa eventually became part of the territory of the place we call Liberia today, and later on became a county named in 1964. That's when it became a county. But as the settlers expanded and worked to integrate other geography within the area, that's how they became a part of it. Okay, so this idea of a social divide, yes, politically we did have a social divide in terms of the political power, but there were efforts made around integration. So the settlers just did not want to hold on to power to themselves or isolate the rest of the population. May I also remind you that Dao Tue, the man who was one of the brain behind the Sastan War, he was married to Topman's ex-wife, Aminta Dent. May I also remind you that Alhaji Kuma was married to the vice president's daughter. He was a Mandingo man. So there were efforts that were made to integrate the society in Liberia. Yes, it did not happen as fast as ever, but these are some of the challenges that we have. So having come this far now, how do we build a wholesome functioning society in the world? In the words of President Talbot, can you learn to see me for who I am and I can see you for who you are? Can we put aside our differences, recognize that there were some missteps on either side? There is no justification for the execution of 13 men on the pole, some of whom were people born in Liberia, indigenous. Sherman was not a Congo man, he was executed. The issue of reconciliation, where do we start? Do we start when our brothers and sisters were sold into slavery? Do we start in 1980 or do we start in 1989? In my opinion, if we start from the day the slaves left the coast of Africa and look back at our forefathers and say, you know what, there were some missteps, but we can reconcile as this generation, one people indivisible under God, with liberty and justice for all. Liberia can move forward.
Aliyu.
Can you hear me?
Loud and
okay, thank you so much. You see, now my brother, the Reverend, is actually speaking to my tune. And with everything we are saying here, this is what I'm saying. How can all of us take responsibility and accept? That's the only way to move forward. He just laid that basis. But let me say something. You know, the myth that like the Liberian, the government at the time did not know or did not have Lofa and other places within their domain, or they were not knowledgeable of it. It's appalling, because if you listen to Edward Whitmore Blyden in the 1830s, he reminded the Liberian government at the time in the 1830s that the government, in order for it to be successful in futures to come, the government must be inclusive and include all Liberians. Okay, in 1868, Benjamin Anderson went to the hinterland as far as Lofa County in the hinterland to say Tubman was the one who knew about the hinterland. That is funny. Even in 1874, Benjamin Anderson went back to the hinterland, made a report, and came back to the Liberian government. Here are your people. You are losing territories. You are losing places. You are losing land. Here are your people. They were only concerned about themselves. Let's go to 1865, when those guys came from Barbados. Over 300 of them. Read about how they established themselves into elites. They completely put the indigenous aside. And I'm not trying to push any divisive thing here. What I'm trying to bring forward to all of us here is that we must first find a problem, which the Reverend has somehow alluded to. Find a problem, everybody take the share of the blame, and then the question you just asked is the million-dollar question. How do we go forward? What we are trying to do is bring the entire thing from the get-go up so that everybody sees it, everybody see where it came from, and everybody accept how it happened, why it happened, and you know, we come together and find a common ground. That's what I'm saying. When somebody say, oh, Tubman built this and Tubman built that and Tubman built this, look, this is funny. My grandmother walked from Hindi in Bon County to go to Jogo another time, Grand Bassa County in 1926. She had to walk by land. There was no transportation. In 1926.
So
you're talking about Tubman being president from 1948 and upward. How can you tell me after 120 years, you build 4 schools and say the common people develop the country? Let us be serious.
Thank you, Aliyu. Before Grace, Idatus, I'll give you 30 seconds to respond.
You know, one thing I love about Aliyu, he mixes history. I told him in the beginning, 3 counties. Liberia was first started at Montserrat, eventually Bassa and Sino became part. Liberia, then Aliyu, was divided into Western, Eastern, Central. I told you that. Those days you didn't have county. They became elevated into counties as different presidents came to power. Lofa County became established as a county in 1964. It was already under Liberia's governance, the rulership after independence. You're talking about 60s. After 60s, we are independent people coexisting in different tribes of sub-identities. That is the fact I'm trying to give you about our history. So I'm not saying that these people were not there. That's not my argument. I'm not saying they were not there.
Thank you.
But one minute you say you want us to be united, but the next minute you are preaching the politics of divide and you're claiming to be factually espousing history. That's the challenge I'm having in the way forward to you.
Thank you, Datus. Well, folks, just joining us, this is Ashford Garley live on Bridge Radio Africa. This program comes on every Monday from 8 to 10 o'clock. It was first 9:30, but we've extended it to 30 minutes. And on this Thursday, Mr. James Coyne will come on with the James Coyne Show, his debut this Thursday. And of course, he's going to be playing host of me. On his first presentation, Mr. James Coyne will be on this Thursday, 8 p.m. on Bridge Radio Africa. want to say a big thank you to Yimithro Krenka, Mr. Bobby Wiles, Mr. Willie Dubber, and Willie Meadow Clark. Thanks for your contribution. Grace, Mrs. Grace Gore.
You see, the thing is that we are Liu has taken us way back. We started this show started like almost a month ago, right, Ashford? When we came, the premise was laid. That's the reason why before people come on the show, they need to go listen to the first three shows and really understand where we were coming from. I see people still on the platform asking me, "Oh, people, you saying that there was nobody in Liberia." Liberians, sometimes I know it's hard for you to take things. That's why we had to sing the SOSO for us to learn it. SOSO, G, go. We made it other song because people have to say things over and over again before you grasp it. Let me reiterate. I said in early history, if you go and read, go to the library, or you can find some library online. Go and read in early history Africa, when the people discovered the continent of Africa. When that continent was discovered, the only human beings that live on that continent live in the east and the north. There were no human beings in the west and in the south. That's the reason why I'm saying that when you go deep into history and you see that nobody actually was born on that land, and only the people who were on that land when they shipped King, the ACS, American Colonization Society, to establish a place for the American Liberians to come, for the Americans, Africans to come back to Africa. The people they met on that land, that's the reason why we call them passerby and squatters. Unlike East Africa and North Africa, when the Africa was discovered, people were discovered on North Africa and East Africa. West Africa and South Africa had nobody on there. So we consider the people that were met there, they were squatters. I will continue to repeat it. I hope you're singing in your SSO so you can grasp it. And that's the reason why I'm saying that there's no reason why people should even be pulling and hauling of land business, because at the end of the day, the early history of Africa, nobody owned that place. Nobody owned it. Liberians should just accept one another and we move on instead of y'all keep on bringing us back. Because the last show we had, we were actually moving forward until you called and asked that question. We were moving forward. American Liberians, when they went back to Liberia, they did some things that maybe because they did not know better. Indigenous Liberians did their own thing because there was a war in that country and in that area and everything. They even captured some American Liberians. They did, and the Gola people captured them. They treated them as slaves again while they came back from slavery after they worked so hard to earn their freedom. They were still captured in that area as well. That's why ACS came back to establish the purchase of that portion of Maserati just to have them safe. So that's why I'm just saying the indigenous did their part. They kept the people as slaves, and the men, even when they kept the men were teaching them English. The men were even teaching them how to do other stuff. The man started to learn how to speak Day and Gola. It was not only him, but he was in history. They said many other people were captured. You see, so we all have our portion of things that we did in the country. You cannot sell a person into slavery. The person came back, work hard for their freedom, and they come back, and you expect them to teach you all they were supposed to. And you usually say, "Oh, my grandmother walked." So who are responsible for your grandmother car again? The American Liberian was supposed to find car for her, or they was supposed to build a road. The people say were just trying to establish themselves in a country that they try to create for everybody in that area. So you cannot blame them. Development was going on, and in some cases, some areas were not developed. We understand, but you can't blame them for that. You cannot blame them for that. It's so sad that we want to do that. It's not fair to them.
Thank you, Vera.
Yeah, I agree with Grace. When we started the conversation initially, we started it due to reconciliation, and we said that both sides have to be accountable for their wrong, apologize to each other so that we can move forward. Because the thing is, those people that were involved long time ago, they are dead and gone, decades and centuries, they are gone, they are no more. And that is the reason why we don't even need to go back to saying 1847. Nothing has done, nothing has happened in the country since 1847 until now. This is why prompted the conversation to the forefront in the first place, because we realized that a lot of people are saying, oh, since 1847, nothing has ever happened in Liberia. There was no development. There was no this and that. And then when you sit and think about it, you see how deceitful or how deceptive that conversation is, or that particular statement is, to say since 1847, there was no development in the country until the country flipped over since 1980. And that is totally wrong. You just highlighted a comment on here. I forgot the person name you highlighted, but it said that how can you buy land for squatters, or how can squatters sell land, or something? Something came across the screen just that way. But to that person who's asking, how can you buy land from a squatter? My question to that, because I think it was a guy, my question to him is, all the squatters now in Liberia that are selling people land, why are people going to those squatters and buying land? So you're trying to say that squatters don't sell land? Because if you're saying that squatters don't sell land, then you are in la land. Because all of the people properties that are stolen in Liberia, people that are not in Liberia right now, that the properties, the squatters, then who came from all over, wherever they came from, that are sitting on people properties, that refuse to move from there. When you go to court, you can't even get them off your own property, who you have the original mother deed for. And you're telling me that they're not squatters and they're going ahead and selling people properties over and over. You need to think against them before you ask that question to say, can squatter really sell land, or can you buy land for a squatter? And the answer is yes. You can buy property from a squatter. A squatter is someone who sits somewhere that they do not really own. They have no original documentation for, and they take it and sell it to other people. They claim it as their own. And you know, the conversation is to me, it's just going to a place where we didn't initially wanted to go. I see Mrs. Gonglo where even highlighted that a continuation of this conversation is only going to deepen the divide. I don't think so. I think the continuation of the conversation brings out everything that is in our. For us to heal, everything must come to the forefront. We must empty ourselves of everything that is in us. If we cannot empty ourselves, then where are we going? We just sit on our pain and our hatred just remain in our heart. We just cover it. It's just on the surface. That's why we can't go nowhere. We must be able to empty ourselves regardless of how uncomfortable it is or how bad it sounds. That's the only way we are going to heal and move forward. No one should hold nothing back. You say what you feel. I say what I feel. At the end of the day, we will come to a place of reconciliation. And it's that place of reconciliation as Liberians that we're looking for. But we find ourselves that one side doesn't want to be accountable. And that's why we keep going back to Ocean in the 14th century, in the 13th century. We don't know nothing about those things. All we know is where we are now. We don't know about those things. Where we are now, we have determined that both sides were wrong. The indigenous were wrong. The American Liberians have their wrong too. So for us, who are the future generations, we're in front here, we must apologize to each other and say, look, we are all Liberians, we are all one. We are all one. No need for the divide. We need to apologize to each other and move forward. But to say that we shouldn't continue the conversation, I think that we shouldn't say that.
Rennie.
I think I agree with Sis Vera on our part that we need to have this conversation, because if we establish where we went wrong, it will look at the contributing factor, it will look at the root cause, and then we can begin that. Have we started that? Of course we have started that. Every sector of our country finally came to a breakdown when we went to the 1989 war. We went there. I mean, even the crown man that was leading the country, he became a failure to the indigenous people. And when we talk about reconciliation, there will be a lot of different tribes of people that will say the crown put wrong or the Gio put wrong, but these things are supposed to be in our past. But what I want us to understand here is the architect. The reason all roads lead to Montserrat County is because Montserrat County has been the only one man in the country. For 130 years, we saw an administration through the two-way party led. That is the fact that you cannot debate. The 130 years, whether it was additional men wearing the clothes as a sheep in wool clothing, 130 years actually did not improve our country. The realities are out there. Now, from 1980 to 1989, did they do anything? Well, some would say progress, some would say nothing. But today, here we are now. We got a president in power right now. When you see how other people denigrate the president, do you see it as a progress forward? It only takes 6 years let him do what he can do in sincerity. And then when the voting population get to know through the education we provide here to them, rather than creating a division, then the next person can come and do the right thing. But right now, when you look at how people are looking at this president, calling him all kind of names, describing this, it continues to fame the division, to say, oh, your man did not work from there, where the car. These are not necessary, folks. Our children are looking at, or this time they are looking at us from different part of the world. Like someone said, everything we're doing here by the year 2065, when the children look back and start looking at us, what would Randy say? What would my mommy say? They didn't really understand what they knew. I think we need to be very responsible, focus on the issue and not the individual. Get out of our emotion and be very, very creative on the issue. When we discuss the issue, give reason, whether you Congo, you Gio, you Mano, once that reason is given to you, it will make you to decide what is the right thing or are the right things you're supposed to be doing. So I think we have gone through all the Congo, this, that. We have a document called the Good Governance. Are we willing to put hands together and say, let's look in the Good Governance document and let's move forward? I am tired talking about going back to 1847. Mr. Garley, by God's grace, when we come by here next Monday, let us be looking at solution. That's my open suggestion to you. I rest my case.
Ashford, can I say something to Randy quickly?
30 seconds, please.
I just wanted to Randy, when you said that, look at the way people denigrate this president. You have to, you also have to listen to the way the president denigrates other people too. The president have done a lot.
Give me an example. Give me an example.
When, in my opinion, when he came and said that a book in English could build this country, like will be a very wealthy nation, that was denigration to the people before him, prior to him.
Not just an expression, they're not talking to anybody.
Say that.
I just I get somebody.
So when other people side, it's a problem.
Grace, I don't think you should be talking here because Grace.
No, I should be talking.
You are said. You see what says at this. What says at this is an expression that is not focused on an individual. How do we?
It is. It's a. You know what, Randy? It's a code word for Congo people.
Well, no.
You
are the one that making it that way. You are the one that making it that way. Go ahead.
Okay, wait now.
Go ahead. Randy is talking.
I'm saying a thing now. So you asked me for an example and I gave you an example. And I'm telling you that example is a code word. Because when Liberians refer to people who knew broken English, they said that only Congo people went to school back then. The Congo people refused to send the indigenous people to school. So when you come and say a book in English could build a nation that will be a very racist nation, that is so-called, that is elite.
Let me kind for one.
You're talking about.
30 seconds, right? Says Vero, we are in the 21st century. When Mr. Weah said the book people, I'm a raw countryman. Many people are raw country people. He's not only speaking to the Congo people. You did not say he said the Congo people. He said the book people. There are even civilized people. There are indigenous people. There are Congo people who are book people now. So that is a general statement he's making. But you want to customize that. And that's what we don't want. I want you to look at it from the product.
Thank you, Randy.
You are trying to get that with the
and thank you, thank you, Vera. Grace, I will give you 30 seconds to comment, then I will move to
why will you give me 30 seconds to comment?
Because it's not your time to talk. It is not your time to talk.
Oh, it's not my time?
No.
I understand, Ashford. Right. Randy, I can't believe that you would say that what question you answered to him just now? What did he say?
He asked me, he said I should give an example because he said that the way we denigrate the president, and said the president also denigrate other people.
Thank you, Mama. Thank you. Example. That Randy Dapo can talk about denigrating somebody. Randy Dapo, you sit down on your platform and you denigrate Cummings to the number nonsensical. Let me just use that English. You denigrate that man. You say all kinds of things about him.
Give me an example. Give me an example.
You say things about him. You talk about his lifestyle, how you dressing in woman clothes. You put it on your platform, and you talk about. So the thing is, what I want to say to you is that when this is one side, when you're doing it, it's okay. But when the other people start to do it, then it's a problem. And you forget to know that we all are human beings. We all have feelings. So when people get tired of you putting them down, they will come back at you. So you cannot say anybody denigrate or bring we are down, because we outside have brought people down when they ran in the street with panty and tomato ketchup inside, trying to say that Annie Johnson was menstruating. That's one of the weakest and most disrespectful thing I've ever seen a person do to a president. And it was indigenous people, children, that were doing that.
Thank
so
you,
you need to just stop what you're saying.
Thank
and
you,
then one of the quickly, Ashford, one of the commenters, one of the people, the viewers commented and said that for all these 100 years, they were developing the country. So for all the 100 years, too, y'all couldn't work for yourself? That's my question.
Okay, thank you, Grace. Now, I will go to Aliyu and Idatus, but in all fairness, I will give Rennie to the opportunity to respond in 30 seconds. Rennie?
Yes, says Grace, it's called politics. It's called politics. It's called politics. Kwame came from a structured environment in this country, and he cannot perform out there. I would tell the people that he's very incompetent. Yes, that is not anything that has to do with denigrating. I'm only trying to level all his incompetency as someone who claims to want to be a president, but he cannot deliver. I said,
how you do it though?
You were talking, I didn't talk.
How do you do it?
Thank you. For 2.5 years, I criticized Mr. Weir. 2.5 years, I criticized Mr. Weir. So my criticism has been across the floor, but I did not see a single person or anyone. I was only looking at the capability and comments. I don't know how you feel, but you cannot live in a structured environment and make bad decisions in our country. We want to go forward, but Kwame is taking you backward. Look at the people you're bringing out there. I rest my case on that one because I'm not the topic today.
Thank you. Aliyu, then you got this.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. We can hear you now.
Okay, great. You're supposed to have Randy pay some money on this show, Ashford. He's using your show to promote George Weir.
He's not using the show. When the ladies speak and asking questions, I think he has to respond.
Yeah, they had to ask him a question because he brought it. That's why she asked him. So he started the whole thing. But for the sake of the audience, we'd like to make some clarity about the whole squatter thing. When people say, "Oh, people were not in West Africa," the first batch of slaves between 200 and 300 that arrived in Virginia were taken from West Central Africa. So they said people were not in West Africa. I don't know. We know that in 7 CE, when the Arab conquest captured Morocco, in order for them to expand their power, they went to East, West, and Central Africa. In fact, in the 14th century, the Arabs started slavery, and one of the places where they took most of their slaves were also in West Africa. So to make these statements that people were not there, were just an empty place, they were just coming down, we know that over 500 years ago, the Zulu tribes were in South Africa. So sometimes my sister Grace, I can wonder where she got her history. But again, in some reason, I kind of think, even though he doesn't agree, but I kind of think the Reverend and I, we have something in common. And that is, let us find the problem and then discuss the solution. Now, some would suggest that we go straight to the solution without actually absorbing the problem. And he, as a conflict resolution specialist, would agree with me that as long as someone is not allowed to express their grievances, it is almost impossible to have them to reconcile those grievances. So the show is unique. The show is great. It should continue. Just heavily with it on one side, and the other side will say, well, we don't need to have a show again, and blah, blah, blah. But the show should and Rennie hijacking me.
I mean,
all right,
people will not go to the
Ashford, come again. I didn't hear you.
We'll now go to the Reverend Idatus Ade.
Well, thank you very much. I think we are making progress in spite of the back and forth in history. The fact remains that there are legitimate grievances that we need to talk about as a people that want to reconcile. That's a good thing. So this show should continue because the fact remains, if we don't have these conversations, we'll always have in our hearts whose country, who Congo. And hopefully, I mean, just basic psychology, the more you talk about your problems, the better you are able to find coping mechanisms for them. Having said that, I'm a bit shocked by Mr. Dapo, who is cautioning us about constructively criticizing our president, George Weah. The truth remains, Mr. Dapo, you were once a sedition, and I'm sure for legitimate reasons, you stopped being a sedition because of the policies of this president. I do not support any individual or group insulting our presidents, past, present, or future. I think we can have a dialogue, a constructive exchange politically without being denigrating, insulting, but let's stay on substance. And I said to Mrs. Way when she posted that on Facebook that it's okay for us to discuss our pains. In the midst of our pains, we'll find peace. And until we can come together as one people, recognizing that it's okay to proudly say I'm a cry. It's okay to proudly say I'm Gil. It's okay to express your ethnicity. But to what detriment? As I conclude, Mr. Dapo, whistleblower, dog whistling is a term that describes subtle messages in politics. And so our politicians have to be very careful about the statements they make. It can be dog whistling. Dog whistling means you are making a statement that can potentially divide the nation. They need to be cautious. Even us as pastors who are on the pulpit, we need to be very cautious. We need to preach the message of reconciliation. And as we provide these political criticisms, let's stay on substance. There's nothing wrong with criticizing our president for his failed policies, for example, in education. Poor investment in education financially. It's not giving free education that educate people. It's not building schools. It's quality education. It's 86% illiteracy rate in Liberia. Thank you.
Well, folks, again, I'd like to say thanks for coming in tonight. And I want to also say thank you to our viewers tonight. This Thursday, 8 p.m., Mr. James Coyan debuts with his program, The James Coyan Show, on Bridge Radio Africa. Please plan to listen or watch. And we'll also have Mr. Philip Woods to come in next week with his own platform as well. So the platform Bridge Radio Africa is open to all of you. You have a program idea, you want to host your own show, and then in the second week, Mr. J. Rennie will come on there, and he loves the money hours, so he will begin his environmental show. This is non-political. Rennie can be tough sometimes when it comes to politics. Fearless, no nonsense guy. So he'll be able to talk about the environmental issue, not only in Liberia but in other parts of the world. Okay, with that said, folks, as we wind down tonight, I'm going to give each of you 3 minutes uninterrupted to close out. Then we can call this a night. I want to begin with Grace. Your 3 minutes start now.
Yeah, continue too.
Well, Ashford, thank you for having me. And I would say with my closing that I'm really surprised that Rennie would say that, you were using, this is politics, but you guys are using politics to destroy our people. If you have to use, if you want to do politics, you should do politics on the issue. But you cannot tell us here that you will come and do politics and destroy a certain political leader. And then when it's time for us, for other people, because I will not be me doing that, but when it's time for other people to talk about the president or maybe another political leader that you like, and then you say, oh no, they're denigrating the person. You can't have your cake and at the same time you can't keep, what is it, you can't have your cake and eat it or something like that. So we have to make sure, Rennie, we have to make sure, and I want you to take this seriously, that I know you are very strong a politician. I know you have other strategies, but we don't want to talk down on the leaders, as you said. And also, when we're doing the politics, we should speak on the issues and not the individual, because Liberians, their minds are not built to understand, you know, the way in which the politics is going in Liberia and destroying our people by the day. And that's why the Congo and native divide is very highly seen now. Until now, even the natives are even fighting among themselves because of this whole preaching of the politics that the politicians are carrying. And we don't want it to be like that. We want you to tell us exactly the information about the different candidates. Tell us exactly how you see where they stand, and for the people to be able to make the right decisions. Because the way you're carrying on the politics is destroy our people now. It's going down to tribalism, and it's coming down now to a great divide in the country. So everybody trying to pick the people from the ethnic group because the other person said this and because the other person said that. And we should be picking the capable people, the competent people to lead our country instead of us looking at them, you know, from the politician's standpoint, and trying to choose people like that to rule our country. It's going to mess Liberia up. I'm appealing to you guys, and we have to make sure we put forth the right information for our people to vote wisely for Liberia to become a better place. And Liberians are all one people. If we continue to be divided with this whole Congo and country thing, our country will go nowhere, because Liberia has a lot of work to do, and the work should start now. Thank you.
Well, I forgot it. So you should keep talking because he's not here. You in control.
Sure, you can go ahead and come here.
Well, I just want to say, you know, the president sets the standard in the country. I don't think anybody would be denigrating the president if the president himself does not stand up and denigrate other people. Like the last time when he said of Mr. Cummings, he tried to describe him as a short man. That's denigration. Denigration is not only profanity. Denigration is not only insult. Denigration is when you start to describe people and body shame, then that's denigration. Because if you call a man or short man, somebody got a description for a tall man, also him, we are being a tall man. So we all need to be careful. We just need to stay away from the personal attacks. We need to stay on the issues that are dear to our hearts, whichever side we support or don't support, but he has to set the standard. And the country and Congo divide. From the initial conversation, the first conversation we had on the platform, we laid the premise. The foundation is shaky because everybody got their own history. Everybody have read different types of history. All kinds of different types of history are out there. So what do? We as the future generation, from those who are gone, who have died centuries and decades ago, that, you know, they are facing the maker now for whatever they did, they are facing their own punishment. What do we do? How do we move forward? If we cannot reconcile the foundation, if we cannot reconcile where it all began and where all the hurt started from, how do we move forward? At some point in time, we'll have to abandon the old 16th century and 1804 and 17C, all the things. Then for me, I ain't even interested in 17C. I ain't even think any of my relatives now way back were living in 17C, because sooner or later we'll start going back to 80 when Jesus Christ time. And I'm not interested in that, because we're going back to 17Cs now, according to Elias. Sooner or later we'll go to 80, then we'll go to the day of Jesus Christ. I'm not interested. I'm interested in now. We are here. We are in 2023. We are in the 21st century. How do we move Liberia and Liberians' power? How do we heal? How do we mend our differences? How do we recognize that we are all different ethnic groups, but we are all one people and our interest is one? And that interest is Liberia. And the divide has to stop, because the divide, you know what the divide has done? The divide has spilled over even to the diaspora. And that's why you will find the people in Liberia telling the people in the diaspora that they are internet citizens. So we're going from country to Congo now. We're going from real citizens to internet citizens. We don't know how far it's going to go. We don't need to go down that line. It's time for Liberia to heal. And I just suggest that anybody else coming on the show, let them go back to the conversation prior to where we are. I think going forward next Monday, I'm not interested in going back to 17C and 1C and 1280. I'm not interested. I'm interested in us moving forward. How do we mend the fences? How do we heal as Liberians? How do we recognize that we are one people and move forward?
Thank you. Jeremy?
Yes, I think we should continue to educate our people on our past. Even the children that come from around the world in this country here, they are being taught what the first president of the United States, and as they progress into their academic pursuit, they talk about the slavery days. And when you watch some of the movie, my brother, you will not even want to see somebody on the street. But it's all about strengthening the democracy. So I would suggest not just to eradicate it, but we need to put it into the classroom, the academic standard, where people will go to school and learn these things, so that when they come outside, they will know that they are coming from an academic arena. With that being said, I believe since I've been criticizing Mr. Weir and listening to Mr. Weir, he has never said anything that divided the country or criticized anybody. Mr. Weir has been the individual that I have ever seen in my life of a president that got a very, very low tolerance. People have sat on platform and caused the man mad from sunrise to sunset. People leave from here, go in the country. They get video, they describing places. When I was living during the time of other administration, those things couldn't happen. He had exercised the highest level of tolerance. People protest all the time, they even causing him. When you talk about people who want to divide the country, I had never heard Mr. Weir saying we want our country back. I heard it from Ure, I heard it from Boca, I heard it from Cummings. The audio are all out there. I'm very, very consecutive in my documentation. Now, when it comes to looking at political discussion, politics has to do with strategy. My politics focus on your performance to either transfer what you learn or your inability to transfer what you know, what you learn, but you cannot transfer. And that would put that discussion on you as an individual. So there's no way that I can separate your poor performance from you. I have to label you. Now, when it comes to the issue, I also discuss the issue as well. We have from 1847 up to 1980, 130 years, we have never put infrastructure that could have been sustained for us to improve upon. What do we have to improve upon? Nothing. So I will agree that when we come on the platform, we can talk on the issue, but we should learn to look at the solution. The good commission document is the way forward. Mr. Weir can be criticized like what any other person. So if you think that communist or anybody will not be criticized, well, learn to watch my show because I'm not going to stop. In fact,
Thank you.
I'm going to do everything possible to let you guys know that they are not.
Thank you so much. We'll
Yes, sir.
see you next Monday. And Aliyu, 3 minutes, please.
Okay. Am I audible enough?
Yes. We have next week.
Okay. Listen to my sister. I did not.
We are hoping that the next week adjustment with the audio, it's terrible. Go ahead.
Okay. If we talk one at a time, I'm sure it'll be very clear. I did not say 17 CE. I said 7 CE. 7 CE. That was the time of the Arab conquest of Morocco. Huh?
I said I understand 7C, but also too.
Yeah, that's why I'm making the clarity now, Marcia. But no, the message has never heard George Weir make the visa statement. George Weir said in Lockingtown during the Abu Kamara and Benna Ure daughter Telia Ure campaign in Lockingtown, George Weir said there on radio, among thousands of people, that a Ure cannot win election while he's president. That's discriminatory. So let us establish that. He has made a lot of discriminatory statements. Okay. Look, I like to clarify certain thing here. Let's just set the record straight here. Everything we're doing here is reconciliatory. I have not seen any enemies on this platform. What we are doing here is presenting the problem. You have presented the problem in some of your exposes. I have decided to come and further elaborate on things that you already know, which is the foundation of the problem. I am telling you, in a nutshell, in order for the structure or the design of your house to be guaranteed, your foundation must be guaranteed. If the foundation wasn't guaranteed in the first place, then the first thing you need to do is you need to break the foundation and rebuild the foundation. That's what you need to do in Liberia. If you're really looking for true reconciliation, you have to break the foundation. And mostly it's not systemic. That's what I'm speaking about. It's mostly mental. See, when I hear you say, oh, we are children of the United States, we are stepchildren of the United States, those are the kind of foundation I expect you to break and rebuild. You are nobody to the United States. When the British came to take over most of Liberia, the United States did not come to you. When the French went to take over the St. Pedro River and the Kavala River region that now in Ivory Coast, America did not come to you. When the British and the French disturbed your maritime activities, the United States did not come to you. Fast forward, modern days, you say you're daughters and sons of America. That is not the case. Whatever America has with you is interest. As we speak, the United States has more investment in Morocco ever than Liberia has ever had from the United States. Every donation that Liberia has gotten from the United States, most African countries has gotten 3 times those. The highest cash money the United States ever gave to Liberia, the people you call your father, your grandfather, was $500,000. It was never given to Tubman. It was never given to Talbot. It was never given to Coleman. Who were given to a military junta, Samuel Doe. And that was because they had interests in Liberia due to the Cold War back after World War II. So when you say 500 million, I mean, you got it. 500 million. It was given to Samuel Doe, an illegitimate government. If the United States has so much interest in you, how come your car road only stopped at the Tubman Farm? If the American government has so much interest in you. If the American government has so much interest in you, how come they allow the British back in the days to give you... All right, no problem. Enough time. But what I'm saying, break that funny foundation you have, break the foundation, get identity.
Where Adi would take us home.
Yeah, I just want to correct one or two things. This idea of deconstructing the foundation in the context of the U.S. government's support to Liberia. May I remind my brother Alio that the American government built your JFK hospital, $9.2 million grant that came through USAID, and a $6.1 million loan they gave us. Liberian government only contributed $1 million to the construction of JFK. So in as much as I understand, you're trying to advocate a sense of independence, but there isn't a psychological misrepresentation of our relationship with these United States and their investment in Liberia. Many of your companies today are US companies that invested in Liberia when you had your open door policy, when Liberia was the second prosperous nation in the world, economy in the world. It was because of the Liberian-American relationship. So this is not a flawed psychology. Now, I can certainly understand if we should deconstruct the foundation in terms of I certainly understand the deconstruction of the foundation in the context of our personal development and the advancement of our reconciliation. We must not make that mistake to believe otherwise, that any nation exists in this global village outside of the other. Interest, yes, according to the father of political science, Hans J. Morton, thought international relations is about interests. That is absolutely true. But the fact remains, America has been there for Liberia in many ways that this generation may not know. And I'm not preaching a U.S. advocacy here. But in the context of our reconciliation, I'm glad that all of us have begun to come on the same page. And for our listeners, it's okay to discuss these things and not pretend that they do not exist. Out of our pains, we can find healing. Alio and I and the rest of the panelists and all of you who believe that the president has the bully pulpit is absolutely true. But we also, as individual Liberians, must begin to spread the love of unity. It's okay to be gay, it's okay to be cry, it's okay to be who you want to be. But Liberia first must be our drive for a wholesome functioning society that integrates political, social, economic viability amongst all people as one nation, indivisible under God, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Idatus, and thank you, Grace. Thank you, Vera. Thank you, Alio. Thank you, Jay Rennie. And folks, that's all the time we have to be with you tonight. God willing, this program reappears next Monday, same time, same place. Until then, folks, don't forget to tune in on the Wednesday night where we go strictly political. We will be touching on some serious issues this Wednesday, and we'll be looking forward to seeing all of you. Then on Thursday comes the James Coyne Show. He debuts on British Radio Africa, and Mr. Coyne will be looking at several other things, including hosting me as his first guest on the show. Then on Friday would be the political suck again. Sorry we couldn't bring the show last Friday. I had some things to take care of, and I'm pretty sure Grace and Vera know because my sisters we talk of the S of time. Well, folks, until then, hey, enjoy the rest of the evening, and let me play you this song before we call this a night. It's called "I'm Stronger" by our own Liberian brother, the late Minister Bannerman's Red.
Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord shall deliver them from all. I am stronger. Day after day, it gets better. Don't wanna stay moving higher. I'm gonna tell, but I'm wiser. I am stronger. Oh, day after day, it gets better. Don't wanna stay moving higher. Hallelujah. I'm gonna tell, but I'm wiser. Come on to me, let's give God some praise. We give the praise of God. When you alone beside my praises, I am stronger in the Lord. I am stronger in the Lord. I am stronger in the Lord. I am stronger. Come on, listen. I shall live and never die. 'Cause I'm stronger. Come on. I shall see Jesus face to face. 'Cause I'm stronger. Oh, I shall run and not be weary. 'Cause I'm stronger. Listen, somebody listen. I am more than a conqueror. 'Cause I'm stronger. Yeah, everybody say it. I am stronger in the Lord. Stronger. Yes, I'm stronger in the Lord. In the Lord. I am stronger in the Lord. I am stronger. Sing with me. I am stronger in the Lord.
And folks, that's all the time I have to be with you. God willing, we will be back Wednesday night. Until then, in the name of Jesus, we thank you, Lord, for the show tonight. Thanks for the strength, the energy, the divine wisdom. And we glorify you, we magnify your holy name. Thanks to all of our viewers tonight. Until then, this has been yours truly, the medicine of the microphone, the golden voice of Liberia, Africa's media do extraordinaire. The broadcast commissioner, the doctor of law, the mastermind. As for the giant, the now you know the Garley. Good night.
Sing to you. I'm stronger in